Well, howdy. My name is Sanjay. I'm a UI UX designer and developer, and in this video, I want to talk all about branching. For a long time, I was a solo developer, and I didn't really know what it was like to work with a team. And it's only until recently that I joined a team, and working with version control can be kind of tricky. In this video, I want to talk about epic branches, feature branches, and the main branch and how they all tie together. All right, to get started, what I want to do is show you this diagram that one of the engineers that I work with showed me. So what we see here is that there's a main branch, right? So when you're working on a software project, typically you'll have this main branch, and it's called different things depending on the software that you use. So the version control that you use, some people call it a trunk, some people call it master. Whatever you call it, right? You have this main branch that cuts through the entire project, and everything is ultimately merged into it, and then that is pushed into production, okay? And then a lot of times what will happen is you'll have feature branches. So let's say you're working on a project and you want to add something new, add a new feature to it, right? Typically what you'll do is you'll actually branch off of main and create the feature and then push back down. And you'll keep doing that per feature. Now, where things get a little bit more complicated, and we're going to talk about this later in the video, is this idea called epics. Now, an epic is usually it's just like all these there. Let's say that there's a group of features that you want to incorporate into that piece of software. What you're going to do is actually create an epic branch. And typically what will happen, as you can see in this diagram, is you're going to branch off of main into an epic, and then you create features based off of this becomes the source of truth now. So you make features, right? You make this feature, push it back into the epic, and then you make another feature, push it back into the epic. And then ultimately, after that's done a few times, you make sure that you are on track with main, and then you push it back up. Now that's kind of a lot to cover all at once. So why don't we see this in action with some code? So I created a little repository on GitHub called Branching for You. And I'm going to show you how I do this completely from scratch so that you understand how you might set up a project as well. Okay. So here we have this repository, and I'm going to grab this remote URL. And then we're going to jump into the code and actually into VS Code and actually set up some of that. So here we are in VS Code in the terminal. Okay. And what I want to do is actually set up the remote branch and kind of get everything started in the project, okay? So I have this README here, and I'm going to go ahead and just do git init, okay? And I'll actually make this a little bit bigger for you. So I'm going to do git init, and by doing git init, really what that does is it starts the Git repository. Okay, now if I do git status, or status, depending on who you are, you'll see that I have this README. And so all I have to do is to git add, and I'm hitting tab, and that will actually just kind of autofill it for me. Basically, whatever is inside of the things that need to be tracked, it will just autofill. So git add README. And I'm also going to go ahead and commit these changes. Okay, this is all just on my computer so far, just my local machine. And I'm just going to say initialize repo. Repo stands for repository. Hit enter. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is actually add the remote. Okay. So git remote add. We want to say what's the name of this remote, and I'm just going to call it origin. And then we want to paste in the URL for this particular remote. Okay, so now that's added, and if we do git remote, we should see it, which we do. Origin is there. So now we're in business. Yay! So let's go ahead and just push this up. I'm going to say push upstream to origin from main. Okay. So it's going to work through some magic here. Give it a second. Wonderful. Okay. So now what we'll see here is I have a main branch on my local machine, but I also have a main branch on remote. Okay. So if I wanted to add any changes, right, we could just work straight off of main, and I'll show you how to do that, right? So let's say that I created a, we'll just call this fancy markdown file. Okay, so here we are in our markdown file, and I'll just say I am on the main branch. Yay. Okay, I can save that. And basically what I would just do is I would go ahead and add this. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. So I can go ahead and add this file, and then I can do git commit message, and I can say add fancy file or something like that, right? And then here it is on my local machine. And then I would just push it up to GitHub by saying git push. Okay, so now it's here. So let's go to GitHub and kind of look at see what we can find out. So I've refreshed the page here, and we can see that everything is on this main branch, right? It's on that one branch that kind of cuts through the entire project. Everything is there. The reason that you want to create branches is sometimes you want to try out features or create things without actually touching the main code of the repository. So let's say that I wanted to create a feature, right? So I'll go ahead and create a feature here. Okay, jumping back into VS Code, let's say I wanted to create a feature. So I can say git checkout. This is a little handy thing that I do. So git checkout will actually check out to a new branch. And what you can do is you actually create a branch at the same time with a B flag. Okay, so git checkout -B. And I'm just going to call this feature and let's say first feature. Okay. All right, great. So now if we do git branch, what you'll see is that we're on this first feature. And so what you can do now on this first feature is you can say first dash feature dot markdown. Okay, and I'll just say this is my first feature. Yay. Okay, and what we'll do is go ahead and we'll go ahead and add this to our local Git repository and commit the changes. Added first feature. Great. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and push this up to GitHub, and you'll see some magic happen when we do that. Okay, so I'm going to do git push to origin from this branch, and you can do feature like this, like feature slash first feature, or you can also just say push it up from the head. And that's probably a concept that's a little bit more in depth, so we won't cover that here. Let me know if you have questions about that, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that just for simplicity. Okay, now let's go to GitHub and see what happened. Okay, so here we're on GitHub, and you'll notice that it said, hey, this branch had recent pushes, okay? And so when we're working on software, the maintainers will typically, well, whenever you commit code to the project, you'll open what's called a pull request, okay? So let's go in here, create a pull request, right? We say, hey, and I'll just call this pull request called first feature, and we'll give it a label. Why not? We'll just say, hey, this is an enhancement. It's a new feature request, right? Assign it to myself. Okay. And this first feature, you can go ahead and create the pull request, right? Now, if you go into the code, nothing has changed, right? You don't see first feature.markdown. But if you go into the pull request, you do see that someone has said, hey, I want to add a new feature. And all you have to do from here is go ahead. You always want to make sure that you look at the files that have changed. And in this particular case, it's only one file that has changed. And if everything's approved, what you'll go ahead and do, and we can also look at the commits, but what you'll go ahead and do is go ahead and merge this, right? And there's these different different ways of merging. We won't cover that today, but basically you could just merge this pull request, confirm merge, okay? Cool. And now what we'll see is, hey, look, now on the main branch in our remote repository, we have this first feature. But now what happens is our remote is ahead of our local repository. So we have to make sure that they get back in sync. So let's go ahead and do that. And if you remember, we were on the feature branch, this first feature branch, right? So we get checkout to the main branch. What we'll notice is if we do get pull, right, it's going to pull down this first feature branch. And now I see this actual file, okay? And you can keep doing that back and forth with different features. But let's say that you have a larger feature to add, okay? This is where it gets a little bit confusing, so hang tight, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to do, I'll make this bigger for you. We're going to do get checkout, okay, make a new branch, and we'll call this epic, and we'll call this first epic, okay? Sweet. All right. So what we can do from here is actually accept an empty commit, because we want to go ahead and just make this make a pull request on GitHub. Okay, so what we could do is do get commit with a message, and we'll just call this add first epic. Okay, and I'll show you this first, right? So if you try to do this, it's going to fail, right? There's nothing to commit. So what you need to do is actually accept an empty commit. Let's go to Google and figure out how to do that. Okay. Yeah. So now what I can see here is this allow empty flag. Okay. Let's go back to VS Code. All right. And now we'll just put this allow empty flag. Yay. And then what we'll do, let's do a get status real quick. Get log, just to make sure everything looking right. Yeah, add first epic is here. Okay. And let's go ahead and clear that. Now, what we want to do from here is actually we're going to push this branch, push the origin from head again, right? And again, this is the same thing, epic / first epic, right? Just going to go and do that. Let's go back to GitHub. Okay, and what you'll see is that we have this first epic. We can compare this pull request. And a lot of times what I like to do, well, let's go ahead and title this first epic. And a lot of times what I like to do is actually add a work in progress label or a WIP label. And in this particular case, I don't think there is one. We'll add one in just a second. Yeah, we'll add one in just a second, but we'll go ahead and create this pull request. Okay, let's create a new label. Edit labels, add a label, we'll call epic, epics. And then we'll also create a work in progress. Okay, and let's go back to this pull request here, this first epic. And we'll add these labels here, work in progress, and we'll add the epic, okay? So now the maintainers, when they go in here, they know, oh, hey, this is not ready yet. This is not ready to be pushed to production. It's not ready for anything like that, okay? Now what you're going to do, let's go back to the Figma file and take a look at that, that diagram to see what we're going to do next. Okay, so what we've done is we branched off of main and we created this epic, okay? And now what we want to do is actually open a new feature branch based off of the epic branch. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Here we are again, and I always like to make sure that I am on the right branch. We should be on the feature branch. No, we should be on the epic branch. See, we should be on the epic branch, okay? And what we want to do here, hang tight, is we're going to do get checkout, make a new branch. We'll call this feature. And we'll call this first epic feature so that we are tracking along here. And I'm actually going to create a new file. First epic feature dot markdown. Okay. First epic feature. Yeah. All right. Hit save. And now what we're going to do is actually commit these changes. So git add, and we're going to do git commit, add first feature for Epic. Okay, great. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to push this up to GitHub, and something different is going to happen. Okay, so we're going to do git push to origin from head. Okay, now here's where things get a little bit crazy. Okay, and we have this first feature epic branch, right? So let's compare and pull requests. Now, what you're not going to do is you're not going to say, hey, I want to push this into the main branch. Really, you want to push this into the epic branch. Okay, remember, let's go back. Remember that ultimately we branched off of the epic and we created a feature branch, and now we want to push it back in. Okay, the epic's not done. There's still more features to go, but that's ultimately what we want to do. So back in GitHub, I make sure that we are pushing the first epic feature branch into the epic. Okay, and that's there. And I'm just going to say first feature for epic. Make this look a little bit more pretty. Pretty. All right, and we'll go ahead and just say this is an enhancement, assign it to myself, and create the pull request. Okay, now what the maintainer is going to do is they're going to look at the files that have changed for this particular branch and say, oh, this is the first epic feature. Great. We review these changes, and we're actually going to say, hey, yeah, go ahead and pull this into the epic branch. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and review these changes here. Go in here, merge the pull request, confirm the merge. Yay. Okay, so now if we go back into this epic, right, you'll see here add first feature for epic is now merged into this epic. But again, we have a little bit of a snag. So if we go back to our local repository, git checkout, we want to check out the epic, right? What you're not going to see, you see this is crossed out in red. What you're not going to see is this first epic feature because it's not merged into the local yet. Okay, so what we need to do is you git pull. We'll do upstream, origin, and what we want to pull from the epic branch. Okay. Oops, I did something wrong. Hold on. Oh yeah, you're not supposed to put the U flag, but you can set it as the upstream. Setting it as the upstream allows us to just run git pull, okay, in the future. But for now, what we'll do is git pull, set upstream. And now what we want to do is we want to pull from origin from the epic. Let's see if that works. Yeah. Okay, so now you'll see it brought in this first feature. So let's go back to Figma. Okay, and now what we've done successfully is we've brought down code to the epic, made a feature branch, pushed it back into the epic branch. Now let's create a new feature. Okay, so here we are again. And I'm going to do git checkout and create a new branch. And we'll call this feature. And we'll call it a second epic feature. Okay. Great. And then we'll go ahead and create a new file. Call it second feature. Markdown. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab this code here, drop it in, say this is my second. Yay. And now what we're going to do is git add. We want to add the second feature. Git commit. Want to commit these changes. And we'll call it add second feature for Epic. Okay. Now what we're going to do is git push to origin from head, right? Because we want to push these changes up to the remote repository. Okay, and if you're tracking with me, we're still on the second Epic feature branch, okay? Let's go back to GitHub, and what you'll notice is here, the same thing is here, okay? The second Epic feature branch is here, so we want to compare and pull the request. All right, and we'll call this second Epic, make it pretty. Second feature, okay? And remember, we want to merge this not into main, but we want to merge it into the Epic. Okay, so now that's that. Assign myself. And then do the Epic. Great. And then we also want to say, oh no, it's not an Epic, I'm sorry. It is an enhancement, it's a new feature. Cool. And we'll go ahead and create this pull request, making sure again that this is going to be this is set to be merged into the Epic branch. Okay, so create pull request. Cool. All right, so let's just go double check. Okay, we have this first Epic. Yep. Files that are changed. This is my second feature. That looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and merge this, and we'll go ahead and merge this into the Epic. Okay, and we're going to double check here, first Epic, and add second feature. Here it is. Okay, let's get our remote, our local in sync with our remote. What I'm going to do is do git checkout, and I want to go to the Epic. Okay. Again, how I'm doing that kind of fast autofill is I just hit tab or type a couple lines like EPI and then hit tab, right? Just let me just show you EPI and then hit tab and it will autofill for me. Okay, so that's my first Epic. Let's go ahead and do git pull, and we set this upstream already, so it's tracking from remote. Let's go ahead and pull down the changes. Okay. Everything's up to date here, so we can go ahead and merge if we are liking the two files that have changed, then we can go ahead and we can go ahead and say, hey, let's merge this into the main branch, okay? So we go back here, merge, okay? And look at that, we have our second and first features for the Epic branch, and we're back on main, which means, what does it mean? It means that our local repository is not in sync. So we'll go back. Now that we're back here, I'm gonna do git checkout to main. Okay. You'll notice that a bunch of things have cleared because we have not brought in the changes. So we'll just do git pull, and here we are. Great. And this is, look, you know, I made a mistake here, right? The second feature, that should be a second Epic feature, right? And so that's what these branches are for. You can create a new branch to go ahead and create, you know, a different file name for that. That's completely fine. But this is basically the process. Let's go back to the diagram and we'll kind of recap and be done. Okay, back to this diagram here. Again, we have this main branch that cuts through the entire project, right? Everything, this becomes the ultimate source of truth, right? So everything ultimately will go into main. Now we can create a new feature and do some cool changes, and then request that it gets merged back into main, right, using a pull request. And we can do that, ad infinitum. Now, there are other times, as we've mentioned, that you want to do the same thing but using an epic branch. And that epic branch basically allows you to take multiple features and smush them all together into one big branch, right? But still track those individual features at the same time. So what we did was we branched off of main, created an epic. And then what we did was we branched off of the epic, created this feature, brought it back in, merged it, and then we created another feature by branching off of the epic, merged it. And once we knew that everything was merged, everything looks great, we went ahead and merged it back into main. And that's basically the whole cycle, and you'll just go through that throughout the project. Now, different projects, you'll have maybe release branches, you'll have, different projects have different types, but this is like a pretty basic way that some software development teams will actually go ahead and manage their projects, right? Because these projects, they get big, they get really complicated, and it's important for us to track those changes and track them really accurately using things like features and epics. So what do you think? Epic branches, feature branches, the main branch? It's kind of a lot to cover, but I'm sure with practice, you too can definitely get a solid understanding of how to work with these types of branches in a team. I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.